G'day team, welcome to another episode of the Grey Man Podcast. I'm your host Harley Fox. Today's guest is Doug Sheridan. Doug's a 33-year veteran of the Australian Army, selected into SASR, multiple operational deployments, and then straight into the Federal Special Operations with the AFP. If you've spent any time around military podcasts, you've probably heard of Doug before. He's been on a lot of shows and it's usually in the same lane: war stories, deployments, kinetic stuff. This conversation isn't that. We deliberately went down a different direction, less about what he did overseas and more about what happens when the uniform comes off. Leadership, identity, purpose, pressure, and the shit no one prepares you for when the job ends. It's still honest, it's still blunt, but it's not a highlight reel of his deployments. If you're looking for another retelling of his gunfights, head over to Zero Limits or another episode. This isn't that. If you're interested in the thinking, the costs, and what actually matters once the noise dies down, stick around. It's a great conversation. If you believe that these stories should be heard by more people like I do, please click that subscribe button. Simple and easy thing to do. Really helps the channel grow. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the show. The Grey Man Podcast is a veteran-run platform dedicated to sharing authentic experiences from current and former service members. These stories are shared to foster connection, understanding, and support within the veteran community. Episodes may contain raw, emotionally charged content that some listeners may find distressing. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the Grey Man Podcast, its host, or affiliated partners. The Grey Man Podcast assumes no liability for any statements, opinions, or representations made by guests during interviews or discussions.
I was a fairly underconfident person when I joined the Army. Believe it or not, there were still remnants of that right into my military career, a year or two into it. So going to West Sahara, the fact that I was chosen as the only rifleman for my battalion, that it gave me that confidence. I came back and it was almost like I'd evolved inversely. I didn't grow into it. It just happened. I had to do it. And I thought, well, look what I've just done. I must be a person of maybe not value, but a person of worth. I must be a person that's capable. And I took that with me. To me, two characteristics of being a sniper is: one, you're a lifesaver, not a life taker. So you protect friendly forces and save lives. I think secondly, you're a survivor. You're a battlefield survivor. You're cunning as a shithouse rat. And you get in and out of things alive.
Was that hard to walk away?
Look, I think it was, mate, because it had been my identity, and I struggle with it now insofar as I don't want it to be my identity. But the monkey on the shoulder just taps me and goes, hey, that's your identity. And I arm wrestle with this monkey daily, saying it's not my identity, I'm someone else now.
Cool. All right, mate. Doug, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks very much, Harley. Appreciate talking today, mate, and hopefully we can talk about something interesting.
Solve the world's problems.
Mate, half of them.
Between the two of us.
Yeah, let's not be greedy, mate. Let's go for half.
All right. So tell us about yourself, mate. What was childhood like for Big Doug?
Mate, it was a colourful childhood. I guess by modern standards, it was tumultuous for a number of reasons. I have I guess my parents both had best intentions, but Australia in the 70s and 80s was a different time, and different things were acceptable, and there were different styles on how to parent and what was deemed acceptable and fine would perhaps not pass the relevant or current litmus tests that define success for parenting nowadays.
Which avenue was yours? Violent, neglect?
Probably not elements of neglect, but probably violence within the household. But look, that was, as I said, that was the 70s, and levels of domestic corporal punishment were fully acceptable. So I don't judge that at all. In a lot of ways, it led to resilience, the foundation of resilience for me that I was able to use later and leverage for success. So no complaints, just what was, and certainly no judgment or complaints on that now. Just a different time, different time. Certainly. I've got a younger brother, Mark, who's 5 years younger than me. We don't see each other that much nowadays, although he lives in Brisbane. We're both very busy, which is no excuse. Certainly as I get older, I realise that. But great guy, and we remain close, even though we don't see each other regularly. My mother lives in Townsville. My father lives just north Brisbane here at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Still got a relationship with both of them?
To a greater or lesser degree, and the level of that can change over, depending on what day of the week it is. But that's also life is navigating and trying to do the best you can do by your friends and family as you move forward. And certainly I believe as the older I get that I'm fully cognizant that you can't let grievances or minor grudges remain where possible between close friends and family. Family are your family, blood is blood. Also, if you've had close friends, they were close for a reason, so at your peril, release them. Let them go through perceived grievances or things that could be worked through. We don't make many true close friends in life, so just be cautious of banning them to oblivion because you didn't like something they said or did at some point.
Yeah, it can be pretty easy, especially I think in this day and age with it's almost like the dating game as well, like the level of options, I guess. It's like, this one sucks, let's move on to the next.
Gee, that's a good comparison, good analogy there, mate, and it's true in it. And we had that brief conversation recently where we talked about potentially values being negotiable. That sort of feeds into that, or something similar to that, isn't it? Where, like the dating game, friendship, if you don't like the thoughts or opinions of a friend, you can just shelve them, move on and find another with relative ease, or so it appears.
Pretty cutthroat these days,
Yeah, but same values, we can... it seems that parameters surrounding hard values or what people perceive to be right or wrong in this world on observation, it seems that those parameters are getting more malleable and less hard. In other words, some observations are, no one's perfect, but some observations are, some individuals seem to shift or change their values as it seems to suit the scenario they're in. So if being firm with one value may inhibit them being successful in a social group or somewhere or some part of life, they'll just shelve that value for a little while. And I'll come back to that later when it suits me. Yeah,
you do see a lot of that, especially with people in the limelight, with celebrities and politicians and stuff, which will, hang on a minute, he was saying something completely different last cycle.
Yeah, dead right, mate. And you know what? I'm far from perfect, far from it. But I guess all we can do is try to strive to be good citizens and just be the best version of ourselves. Hopefully we get better day by day with that as we age or gain more experience and exposure to
Get
life.
That growth mindset going.
Yeah.
So what sort of values did you have growing up? What did your upbringing instill?
After just, I guess, providing a not so veiled negative view of my childhood, I guess the positives were there, and they certainly were. And those values that so-called higher or golden values, I think, were instilled in me by both my mother and father. And those were a sense of fairness, a sense of justice, doing what is right, certainly when it is the hard thing to do, not just when it suits you. And I grew up, I guess, being encouraged to read and did read a lot of the classic novels around, which centered in and around, I guess, portraying the greater ideals or the old world ideals and values, things like, I guess, the classic novels like the Charles Dickens, the Edgar Rice Burroughs, the Mr. Midshipman Easy, these military books, Biggles comics, John Carter of Mars, these adventure comics where the hero was probably that dated 40s, 50s, 1960s hero, but certainly they showed they had values or displayed traits like strength, courage, and those things weren't just physical, they were moral. They were how they protected the weak and did anything adverse to what we might call bullying nowadays. So I guess that also fed into values like feeling the need to defend those that can't defend themselves, not bullying, looking after those that can't fend for themselves. And when you interlink that or interlace that with values like fairness, justice, I guess they've always been bubbling in the background and always informed my behaviour, or certainly informed the behaviour I would like to display at my best. And I hope I have in my best moments.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that, looking after the little guy and standing up for what you believe. But it was kind of mixed in with to the moon, Alice, and a bit of racism and sexism.
A bit of casual misogyny in there, mate, but not viewed as such at the time. But
yeah. Were you, did you have some jobs and stuff growing up?
Look, I did, and again, I guess good segue, knowingly or not, mate. I guess that fed into values like hard work and work ethic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And the value of it. I remember I was talking to someone recently who went to a high school around near where I did, in Rochedale Road in Rochedale here, and I remember in the middle of summer as like an 8-year-old mowing at a produce farm out there on Rochedale Road, mowing with a push mower. A petrol push mower mowing shoulder height grass, and I'm talking 2-3 acres or more over a period of like 6 weeks every Saturday morning from say 8 to 12, 9 to 12, 8 to 12, 8 to 1 at times in the middle, stinking hot. At that age, not realising I'd probably stop for a drink of water, so I didn't. In the blistering hot sun, a singlet on, shorts, perhaps runners, no sunscreen, no hat, no water, and for $1 an hour. You paid $1 an hour by an old Italian Australian. Keep going, son. And my father was fully on board with that. Did you get your $4 this morning? I did, thank you. My $5. So it was all about doing. And funnily enough, this fed into selection later. It was like, I remember one school holidays, my father, we had a 1/4 acre block, and the fence needed painting. And I remember celebrating the first day of school holidays when I was something like grade 6, and my father pulled out half a dozen tins of paint and said, okay, what I want your school holiday project is to paint this fence back inside and out, double coat. And it was a wooden fence and it was untreated, so it absorbed the paint. So it took, you couldn't just give it an easy one coat. So that was my school holiday project. So, and for little or no reward, that's just the way life was. So I guess those sort of tasks which seem endless for no real point or no personal gain probably fed into a lot of scenarios when it came to selection calls, because that's exactly what some of the things in selection are, those tasks.
Yeah.
Seemingly endless tasks with no point, no end, and no personal reward.
Yeah.
So that was part of my childhood anyway, so it was situation normal.
Yeah. It's, do you have kids now?
Mate, my wife and I have a blended family, so we have 5 children, and they're 5 girls, and I've, to a lesser greater degree, raised all 5 of them.
Yeah.
So that's been with its pleasures and it's been with its challenges. And I believe you have a young lass yourself.
Yeah, I've got two girls. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So ages,
yeah,
mate,
it's,
what are they?
25 and 11.
There you go. So you've bracketed that, mate. You perhaps experienced some challenging years and you're about to experience some more.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the hard work and instilling those values and all that we do to almost protect them from the hard life that we have, which is kind of having maybe a counterproductive effect. Who knows? We'll find out soon, I guess.
Yeah, look, I guess what we know is we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and certainly the ugly of it, and we want to protect our children from that, don't we?
Yeah, we're just like maybe swinging the pendulum a little bit too far.
Yes, yeah. As fathers, you mean?
Yeah. And protection and, I was just thinking on school holidays, what do we do? Play PlayStation, go to the arcade, go to the beach. No long, arduous tasks, that's for sure.
No, definitely, and certainly not in this age. Is it? Hard work's almost a dirty word. It's up there with mandatory and non-voluntary. They're the big aggressive words we can't use.
Cool. So you, what about after school and stuff? Did you start any other jobs before you joined the military, or you were straight in?
Look, mate. The short of it is, I had a couple of false starts of joining the military in that time. Over about 18 months from high school, from flash to bang. Flash meaning leaving high school, and bang joining the army. In that period, I did a couple of odd jobs here and there, marketing or advertising, cadetship back when those were a thing, as part of the not traineeships but a cadetship. But nothing that floated my boat, and certainly my upbringing with my father had that paramilitary feel to it. We in our household, the Falklands War was big news. Princess Gate was big news. So I guess I was always pre-programmed to join the military eventually.
So your family ties?
Yeah, certainly. My grandfather was in the Royal Field Artillery, World War One. My uncle was in the Royal Navy for a period of years and did operational service, I think, in the Middle East and Cyprus and Middle East. My father was CMF for a while, so he was a Choco Citizen Military Force. I guess somewhat different, but a close precursor to Army Reserves. But I think they both existed at some point with slightly different functions. And my another uncle was a RAF signaller in South Vietnam and worked at Khe Sanh, the fire base Khe Sanh, or the base at Khe Sanh. So saw a bit of action, if only with inside the wire, but certainly direct and indirect aggression thrown at that base by NVA and Viet Cong.
And were you listening to stories and stuff growing up, or you knew of their plights and service?
Not so much personal stories. So family stories, no. But as I was saying, Princess Gate, Falkland Islands, and anything else in between, dare I say, predominantly British SAS, were front of mind or front of discussion in our house.
Yeah. Let me just turn the aircon on so we don't die.
Sure.
Yeah, nice. So what was your influencing factor then that drove you towards wanting to serve?
Look, I think I had somewhat of a troubled sort of teenage years, and leading out of high school, I was going nowhere fast, and I think it was a sense of trying to save myself, to be brutally honest. I had enough wherewithal to realise I was going nowhere fast, and what was instilled in me in my childhood and formative years was that I wanted to be successful at something. Wasn't sure what that looked like, but at about 17, 18, 19, I knew I wasn't on that trajectory at all. So out of, I guess, desperation, I thought, I think the military can do this for me. It will give me a pathway and set me on rails where I can achieve this in the military, because left to my own devices in civilian street, I'm a bit of a loose cannon, and I don't have the focus. So I need something that gives me the focus, and the Army seemed to be that. And I think on reflection, it probably was in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah. And did you have any sort of roles that you were interested in?
Look, I think given Princess Gate and elements of the Falkland stories and so on, I think it was always Special Air Service was front of mind, but also automatically it seemed to be that bridge too far. The goal I was never going to achieve, because only non-humans, only elite bloody people that existed in rare air ever went there, and you wouldn't meet one, you'd alone become one in real life. So I guess I toyed with ideas of some kind of specialist skill, but in my mind it was always going to be, I won't say secondary to that, but it was something in my mind that I thought may be more realistic. And I don't mean to upset anyone when I say that it was only my somewhat unformed mind at 18 thinking, well, perhaps something like a clearance diver would be achievable for me. Something that I'd seen and could touch in real life, or an infantryman, or a commando, assault pioneer even across the bloody horizon at some point there, an assault pioneer in infantry, because I thought the 2-4 pioneer sergeant with his axe and beard looked really cool. About things that seemed to make sense to me then. Special air service, of course, pie in the sky, but I don't believe I ever genuinely thought that was going to be an option I could achieve.
Yeah, right. So what was the process? You told mum and dad you're going to go join the army and walk yourself down to recruiting, or
pretty much. I joined as a choco in high school in '87, and that was a bit of a stop start entry to the military, and that was my father's support. But then later on, when I decided to go regular as a soldier, again after a false start, where I was going to go to RMC at some point straight from school, and I didn't. In the end, it was almost that act of desperation, self-driven. In 91, when I said that's it. I don't know what was the pivot point for that, if there was one moment, but at some point I said now's now, and it did coincide with the Gulf War. Gulf won, so I thought, look, here's an opportunity I can join and I can get amongst something and do something for the greater good, or so it seemed to me at the time. So I joined the army in 91, the regular army.
And was that back when you didn't go in as an actual job? You just went to whatever you got allocated to, or you went in as a infantryman?
No, I think it followed the basic formula of most people's entry into OR was getting hosed over. I battalion enlisted in 91 when that was a thing, and it was I was meant to conduct basic training, School of Infantry, and go to 8-9 RAR.
Okay.
So I thought that's fantastic. I'll get this dream, I'll get the rails, I'll get the guidance I need. Plus, I'll still be in my hometown with my mates and everything I know and that is comfortable.
So you got the whole map out before you even joined?
In my mind, I thought, and not that I threw a longer shot than this or a longer cast on it, but I thought, hey, for the foreseeable period, I'll be an infantry back in Brisbane. So I'll be an army guy, but I'll also have my comfort or my safety zone and my friends and family.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. That didn't occur. I can see you're madly surprised about that, Harley.
What? They lied to you?
Yeah. Halfway through infantry, there was a scheme that came in, you may have heard or recall, called the Ready Reserve Scheme. So 8-9 was going Ready Reserve. So probably halfway through my basic training, I was given the news that you're not going to 8-9 RAR. That contract you thought you had in your own mind, be it verbal or otherwise. Look, there may have been a written contract, I can't remember, but probably not. Being Army, I just signed the dotted line and I was told you'll be coming back to 8-9. I was told that's no longer a thing. Not only you're not going to infantry, you're going to air defence as a gun number or an air defence number, meaning the RBS 70 or something back. And so I thought, wow, okay, interesting. So pivot immediately. As it turned out, for better or worse, I got what I wanted, and late in the piece it swung to infantry. So I was re-awarded infantry, but going to Singleton with an open view of, I'll go where I'm told. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like, going through your basic training and stuff as a young man?
I found it easy, to be honest with you. Of course, not the food deprivation or the sleep deprivation or just getting beasted or just the annoyance of being yelled at and being forced to meet unrealistic timings, all the annoyance that goes with it. That's not enjoyable. But as I said, I had a difficult childhood at times, and I was no stranger to hard work, even though I was probably a bit of a loose cannon as a teenager and unfocused. I had done hard work and I knew what it looked like. So just doing what I'm told and doing hard work wasn't an issue for me. So I never at any point did I entertain the possibility of pulling the pin or somehow trying to get out of it. I just knew I was there for the long term.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, it may seem a little blasé putting it this way now, but I found it quite easy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And was it back in the days when they used to give you floggings and stuff, and back in the 90s and early 2000s where they weren't scared to use their fist for discipline? No, and I was punched in the back of the head on the parade square at some point. I probably deserved it, to be honest. But certainly physical abuse was tolerated. Certainly any manner of psychological or
abuse or was fully on the table. Wasn't even questioned. Be that in the forms of insults, and certainly nothing was off the table when it came to insults about the way you look, your racial background, your ethnic background, your cultural background, how you looked, how you spoke, anything. Nothing was off the table. So that ability to be, I guess, broken down as an individual and then rebuilt as a team was certainly done with that level of all forms of abuse.
Yeah. You think we've swung too far the other way now with the coddling of the recruits?
I feel we do. I feel we have. There's one purpose for a military, and that is to defend and extend the interests of Australia. That's what the Australian Defence Force is for, Army, Navy, Air Force. How that relates to fighting personnel in those different services, and how that certainly relates to infanteers or Army, is ultimately it's taking the lives of others. Full stop. So any labelling around defence forcing, labelling around peacekeeping is just enablers or other support elements around our core function, certainly Army and infantry, and that is taking the lives of foreign personnel. Dare I say it, in the years to come, who knows? It's about taking the lives of any personnel that threaten the interests of the Australian people and the Australian government.
Yeah.
And it's to pursue our interests. So that's the way it is. So that is not for that is not open for negotiation. It's not, and you don't treat people in a soft, fluffy manner to achieve that.
Yeah, 100%. Seems almost kind of like what we were saying before with the kids. It's kind of lost our way and focus on what we're trying to achieve, making strong, resilient humans that can, go out in the world and succeed, making strong, resilient soldiers that can go out in the world and conquer. It's we've swung a bit too far the other way of protecting their feelings and emotions, I guess.
I think so, Harley, and it's not about rum and the lash either. Of course, we need to adapt and move with the times. We need to be a force or a body that is worthy of respect from the current society and the way society is, and will always be a reflection of that society. But we need strong, resilient warfighters that we're going to send overseas to further the interests of the Australian people and Australian government, and that means ultimately potentially taking lives as an Australian. So we need to train people and enable people to do that, but more importantly, to do that and come home and transition back into society and be functioning good citizens in Australian society. So that's a complex and responsible, highly responsible task given to the Australian Defence Force, and they're perhaps not doing it as well as they could right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a very complex topic that I don't think we could solve in this conversation.
No, complex, correct.
Cool. So what? Where did you end up going if you didn't go 8-9?
I went to 5-7 RAR, which was, I don't know if you remember those paperback novels getting around, the Sven Hassel novels about the German penal battalion that were mechanised, and they were all criminals, and they were sentenced. They had a choice of death or the Death's Head battalion being mechanised. And so those books were very popular in the battalion. 5-7 RAR mechanised, and I guess we related to that. It was either take the death penalty or go to 5-7 RAR. and that was particularly it in the 90s, mate. We were the two specialised. We're only one of two specialist battalions in the otherwise light infantry Australian Regiment, Royal Australian Regiment, and that was a 3 RAR para. Well, apparently that's cool. So the next is 5-7 RAR mechanised, and apparently that's uncool. So it's neither para nor is it. It's different to the norm. So what do we do in life when something's different? We pick on it. Or we bully, don't we? So the different kid in the playground. So this was a different battalion, 5-7 RAR mechanised in the 90s, and we copped much abuse from the other battalions and considered second rate. Because we were mechanised, we can't possibly be good infantrymen as well. We're too busy bumming around.
Your stuff,
So, but because of that, it created some kind of bizarre inverse brotherhood, and does to this day with those people from 80s, 90s, 5-7 RR mechanised. And it's great to see the battalion relinked as of December last year. So when it was delinked, circa, 2005 somewhere, 2006, 2007, delinked to 5 and 7 RR, it's now been relinked. And that proud history continues.
They're still the bottom feeders?
Oh, mate, they never were. and I think they just won Dog Squad. And if they didn't, I'm going to say they did. They should have. So, no, highly skilled battalion now, and I believe they're probably light infantry, funnily enough. The worm has turned or whatever. The circle of life has gone 360, although not quite, and I think they're a light infantry battalion out of Darwin now, and 3 RAR are the mechanised.
Yeah.
Which is a source of amusement for many old 5-7 boys.
How the tables have turned. Cool. So what was happening at 5-7 when you were there? Did you get any trips or anything?
Mate, look, Labor government, 90s, something like, and I pluck a figure, but I'm not far off it, give or take 20 rounds, 160 rounds, live rounds per man per year. It was farcical. The term cyclone training was used in 5-7 RR. That was you'd come to work, do PT, go back, shower, go to breakfast, come back, sit in the breezeway till morning tea, to Mornos, go to Mornos, come back, sit in the breezeway, literally. We'll task you in a moment. Up to lunch, go to lunch, come back. And then the line was, come back after lunch, go do some cyclone training, boys, which was hide in your rooms, keep low, in case the cyclone hits, and don't be seen. And that happened for months. It seemed like almost a year or two at one point because we had no money. So with that we had a highly undermanned battalion. So think MLOC, we were probably 30-40% of MLOC, yet alone OLOC, an operational level of manning. So we had no money, no rounds, no manning. Therefore, everything suffered, including the ability to direct and train troops. And therefore, we sort of stagnated and did nothing for a year or two there. But I was lucky enough to somehow, with that, get on a few specialist courses and thrive in that environment, I believe. Then lucky enough, through some good choices and some good luck, I got a UN trip to Western Sahara in 93, 94, so that took me to North Africa and sort of really opened my eyes. Apart from a 5-power defence CP, 5-power defence arrangement CPX in Malaysia in start of 93. I'd never been overseas before, so to be launched straight into West Sahara and Morocco for an extended period was life-altering.
Yeah. What was that like?
Different. I'd never worked with other corps nor females before, so there was some adaptation there, and it was good. It sort of opened my eyes up and made me more of a rounded individual and soldier, I think. Eye-opening also insofar as I'd never seen base abject poverty before and human suffering, and I saw that up close and personal regularly. So that was altering and helped me sort of mature as an individual. On top of that, I also worked with higher ranking nationalities of other forces, that is Chinese, Russian. So the people that I've been 5-7 are having that NATO doctrine of holding back the bloody Soviet behemoth in Berlin and then fighting a stage withdrawal back through Europe and then stopping them some other line and fighting that whole NATO conventional war. So I'm now working with these people, the Russians and the Chinese, the great Satans. I'm doing vodka shots with them bloody on Friday nights and learning that these are good people, individuals. And that's when I started to realise some of the veil was being lifted from my eyes, that good people are what they are, no matter where you find them and whatever manner they present. Be that, colour, religion, bloody nationality, uniform, good people are where you find them.
Yeah. It's pretty powerful when you realise that the enemy is human,
Correct.
Well, a story, is it Germans and I can't remember who they were at a staging area with, and they paused over Christmas and sort of partied together and drank together and then resumed fighting a couple of days later.
Imagine the difficulty of that. Imagine doing that. Like, take that away from being a funny, a heartwarming story at Christmas, and think about the reality of that, of realising that the person's human, sharing a drink with them, and then going back and trying to, put one between their eyes, 3 hours later.
Yeah.
And how does that, what's the knock-on effect of that, of your psyche and the way you view life?
Oh, yeah, it would have made it much worse.
Knock-on effect? Yeah. How do you justify that when you come back and you think, okay, now I need to invent or reinforce a narrative that justifies why I did that. 3 years of my life.
Heinrich was such a nice guy.
Yeah. Hans? What a good guy. And there was that, you did right, there's that story where they stopped and even played soccer or something, played football, over the trenches or in between in no man's land.
Yeah.
Powerful stories.
Yeah, for sure. What you're saying too about just seeing poverty and stuff, I think that's important for everybody. Like if you don't travel internationally, you're really restricting your ability to understand the world and your place in it, and especially the sort of the luxuries and the life that we live, and how lucky we are, I guess, compared to people that are born into those countries and that sort of level of poverty.
Correct, mate. Correct, and it's something I try to still instill in my children, and something I never try and forget. And I without getting overly political, when I observe some of the goings on domestically in Australia in the last, let's say, 5 to 7 years, and certainly right now, I'm starting to feel that level of assumption that I had, that Australia's always that safe place, Australia's always that stable place, that forgiving, accepting, relaxed, warm, welcoming place where freedoms are upheld and right prevails, fairness prevails. I'm now starting to feel intuitively that some of those freedoms, some of those safety nets that I've always felt and I've grown up with may be not as firm as I thought. That Australia is not any different to any other country throughout history that has gone from periods of stability to periods of instability and even it collapsed into chaos. And I'm not saying that's where we're going. I hope that's not where we're going. But we need to be mindful that whatever has existed in Australia in the last 50 to 70 years, 80 years, that period of stability is not carved or stamped in chrome. It is not there forever unless we keep it there forever.
Yeah. You can't just blasé think that we're under this safety blanket and everything's fine. We've got to take action, I guess.
We've got to be vigilant.
Vigilant, yeah. So you got back from that trip and then back to the battalion and back to painting rocks, or did you? What happened then? Geez,
mate, when we laugh about that, don't we? Painting rocks, but I did things as mindless. I don't think I actually ever painted a rock, but I did painting rock-like things regularly for a couple of years. But look, I managed to thrive in an environment that was not ideal for that in the early 90s. And this was, for those listeners that aren't aware of that was and I'm not being political here, it's just a fact, it was a Labor era, prolonged era of Labor governance of Australia. And at that point in time, defence spending was not high on their agenda or level of importance. So we got very little funding.
Because it was peacetime for so long?
Yeah, correct. Or remember that the world has never been really at overt peace. It's just we chose to take a peaceful stance. There was much going on over those years. Australia just chose not to be involved. But let's not forget, it's not that simple. The world wasn't in blissful peace just because Australia didn't do anything from essentially as a foreign body, didn't do much from, you could argue South Vietnam through to maybe East Timor, 99, as a form body, the Defence Force, a cohesive form body. But there's plenty going on, but we chose not to, or get involved in that period. So it wasn't a place to thrive necessarily. It wasn't a vibrant, dynamic defence force by any means. So I managed to go well there. At some point, I did have my highs and lows there where I felt demotivated, like I wasn't achieving much or contributing to a great big picture. But I managed to fight that through highs and lows, and that led me to eventually decide, look, I'll have a crack at selection for the Special Air Service Regiment.
Okay.
Ultimately, I was successful with that on my first try, luckily enough, and then moved forward with that.
What was the crux that took you from I could never be one of those godlike figures to I'm going to give it a go?
This is actually quite a boring answer. It was almost self-preservation, career self-preservation, insofar as I'd procrastinated about doing it for a number of years, and then after I guess being the sniper supervisor of the battalion in 570R, going very well at Duke of Gloucestershire Cup, winning a few mil skills both as a section commander and as a soldier, doing a few deployments here and there. I was told my next posting into 98 would be 1 RTB, so a recruit training instructor. For me, that was the last thing I wanted to do at that point in time. So it was literally, I said to myself, I'm doing Special Air Service in passing or I'm discharging.
Okay.
So that was the point. So and I've done that at certain points in my life, created a no retreat point for me. So at that point, I had no retreat. I had to pass selection because I didn't actually want to leave the Defence Force. I wanted to make that a career, but I couldn't dodge 1 RTB. I was going there, but I didn't want to do that at all. I'd rather leave the Army. So in my mind, it was Special Air Service selection, and I had no option but to pass.
What was so bad about being a recruit instructor?
Nothing's bad about it at all. It just, for me, at that point in time, I had an operational brain on. I wanted to deploy. For me, soldiering was deploying, being operational, and I guess I was chasing a war.
Yeah.
So the furthest thing removed from that in my mind was being a recruit training instructor at Kapooka.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, whilst I should say I had some very good role models, 2 in particular, at Kapooka. One was an armoured corps corporal and one was an MP corporal, and they were absolutely magnificent role models. The other ones there, less so. So I didn't have a great respect for the role or the job that was done there either, and it just wasn't for me at that point in time. And that was a 90s perspective on that. And some people are made for roles, and some of my good friends, the most professional individuals you'll find, have done that role and they've nailed it. And the Australian Army is better for it. But it wasn't me.
Yeah, okay. So what was SASR selection like? Tough?
Yes would be the answer.
How long does that go for?
Mine, nowadays, I think it goes for around 21 days. And I think mine went thereabouts or slightly longer, perhaps. It was tough. And I guess I've spoken about that before on numerous occasions. And look, there's no surprises there. We've all heard the stories. It was tough. And it is tougher than you think it is. So when you imagine, which is odd because we all know that when you're preparing for something like selection, there's a dearth or lack of information. There's a bit of mystique there. And we all know that human beings, our survival mechanism is in the absence of information, we just make it up, and it's always bad. So it's an enigma, selection, insofar as you war game it as being horrible. So you think you've nailed it, and then you get there and it's actually more horrible. How they do that is one of the skills of selection, that it can be worse than your projected nightmare. And it was.
Yeah. No, it's still based over in WA at the time.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So what happened then? You had some deployments with them.
Look, mate, I've had some deployments over the years. I've rock and rolled in and out of special forces with Army, both SASR. I did a short time with 1 Commando as a reservist doing continuous full-time service. I spent time as an air marshal. So the first cohort of air marshals post 9/11 in 2001 there.
So like when you sit on a plane and make sure nothing goes wrong?
Yeah, correct. That's where you gunned up on a plane. And interestingly enough, At that point, and perhaps still, I'm unsure, I'm not tracking it, but up until that point, we were the only law enforcement officers that could carry firearms on an aircraft, and that includes ministerial or the Prime Minister's close protection unit. They didn't. So we were the only. It was groundbreaking behaviour and operations for Australians, both domestically and globally on that aircraft. So I did that for a period of time. I then became a federal agent. I was a substantive sergeant, so I had a rapid rise to substantive sergeant in the AFP. I think it took me about 18 or 20 months. No doubt leveraging off my SF background as I was in police special operations, so no doubt that was the reason why I had a rapid advance in rank at least. So I was a federal agent for a long time, almost 10 years in the federal police, whilst remaining a reservist. So over those years, I guess I did deployments to both Army and federal police. I did multiple tours to Solomon Islands under whatever that looked like at the time, from 2001 through to 2010. East Timor a couple of times again with both bodies, defence and federal police. West Sahara, as I've spoken about. Rifle Company Butterworth, when I was back in the battalion, I did Tonga in 2007 when there was complete anarchy that broke out around 2007, which coincided with that unfortunate incident of the Black Hawk spearing in on the Canimbla, that HMAS Canimbla there. I did, obviously, Afghanistan with Special Operations Task Group. I was a sniper team leader there. And I've done, I've spoken, I guess, exhaustively about this in the past. I've done exchanges with the German Federal Border Police and elements of GSG 9 or Special Group 9 there as an air marshal instructor, but also as a special operations federal agent with FBI's hostage rescue team in the United States. So that was excellent. I do have a fondness for working with our allies, the United States, both their special operations personnel, be that hostage rescue team, what they call the FAMs, the Federal Air Marshals, which were predominantly ex-US SF military anyway, old boys at the time, early 40s. I was probably early to middle 30s. And, of course, US Special Forces of different types over the years. And I have a real affinity and have really thoroughly enjoyed working with the Americans.
Why? Is it their professionalism or just good blokes?
I think it is the professionalism because, make no mistake, they are. But unlike other forces, there's usually a refreshing lack of ego. Is that they're not trying to live a persona or a thought process. They're in the moment. They are an operator and they're an SF operator, and they tend to be open to lateral buddy or non-conventional operations more so. Their mindset is set for that, and I don't know if that is the revolutionary mindset of the American, rebelling against the United Kingdom or England, but that's carried through their mentality is custom built for unconventional operations. They're all in, and they are mad patriots. So they're one of the most patriotic people I've ever met. Certainly in the military. So when you nuclear charge a soldier with almost obsessive patriotism, the only other obsession you'll see that comes near that is religious obsession. They are so deep in the belief of the righteousness of the United States and freedom that it drives their behaviours and their motivations. So they're extremely open to friendship, as in they seem to value their allies. I think my opinion is sometimes on the global stage, rightly or wrongly, the United States feel that they're the lone aggressor against bloody global evil. So they feel like they're on their Pat Malone.
Team
there.
America, World Police.
Exactly. That's not, in some aspects, that's not far from the truth. Hence that movie. So again, rightly or wrongly, they seem to value when little brother comes in and does their minute contribution to something like Australia. When Australia comes in and they see it as a moral vindication or justification of what they're doing, and moral support, certainly. even if the physical aspect to what we bring is, almost negligible. Really, in a macro sense, it's negligible.
Let your little brother come along and
Yeah, that's right. In fact, nothing would change if we never showed up. The physical result possibly wouldn't be different. Does it have global implications and influences by us showing up to support? Sure, but for an operational aspect, it makes no difference.
Mm-hmm. So looking back on that illustrious career and multiple deployments, which one do you think had the most impact on you?
Gee, that's interesting. I've never been asked that, nor had I considered it. Look, I'd possibly say it's easy to grab the low-hanging fruit and say Afghanistan. Insofar with that, I did some time doing diplomatic security at the embassy, Australian embassy in Kabul. So I saw a lot of that country, both in uniform and I guess working for contracted and DFAT and doing certain things there. So it would be easy to grab that, but possibly, Harley, it must be Western Sahara. And the reason I say that is I was a fairly underconfident person when I joined the Army. And I was listening to a podcast you did with someone else, and it had a hint of familiarity to it when I listened to what they were saying. Is I was never able to talk in front of people, so much so I had issues, and it seems odd to me now. If I was in things like, and I'll give you a scenario, back when you used to go to, some kind of, not that I spent much time there, obviously, given I've worked my whole life, but places like Centrelink or Medicare or some government department where you take a number and then go and sit down. When they call your number or they call your name, you have to cross an open floor to see a person at a desk. I used to have panic attacks, anxiety attacks that I have to cross the floor. Someone would call my name or my number. Everyone would look up, look at me, and I have to cross the floor. I'd almost feel like I was going to trip over my own feet with anxiety and nerves. I was that frightened of attention and being in the limelight and being that underconfident. And I took that into the military. Believe it or not, there were still remnants of that right into my military career, a year or two into it. So going to West Sahara, the fact that I was chosen as the only rifleman for my battalion, chosen to represent the battalion and do that, then had that level of responsibility as what essentially amounted to a military observer in a remote team site in different parts of Africa, conversing with foreign forces from captain through to major and lieutenant colonel equivalent, and having to hold my ground. And when I say hold my ground, I mean in robust discussions, almost physical altercations in team sites. Having been forced, and there's no way to escape, I had to do it. I was Johnny on the spot, the person representing Australia and our point of view, that it gave me that confidence. I came back and it was almost like I'd evolved inversely. I didn't grow into it. It just happened. I had to do it. And I thought, well, look what I've just done. I must be a person of maybe not value, but a person of worth. I must be a person that's capable. And I took that with me. And I think just prior to that, somehow I bumbled my way through passing a basic sniper course back in the day when most didn't pass. Somehow I bumbled my way through that and passed. And that's another story entirely. But so that and the Western Sahara deployment and what I achieved there put me back in a battalion where most of the soldiers hadn't deployed anywhere. That we'd had those remnants of people that had gone to Cambodia. We'd heard about secondhand or indirectly about personnel infantry that had gone to Rwanda and so on. Certainly Somalia. My first section commander coming back from Western Sahara, I had the good fortune that he was a Somalian veteran, so I learned good lessons off him. So what that did is made me realise that I was probably a valuable soldier. It gave me confidence, and that led me going straight into subject promotions for corporal and getting student merit on those, and then I just started moving forward. Yeah, so that was the catalyst.
Set you up.
I think it did. It gave me confidence as an adult.
Nice.
Confidence certainly as a soldier and as a professional.
Yeah. It's awesome. I was just thinking before when you said you were at the AFP doing over in Timor and stuff. I had Rod on that was helicopter crewman that was in Timor a couple of times, and he said the AFP was over there doing some pretty gnarly work that he was in admiration of, that they were doing these, body recoveries and stuff that was pretty hard for him to see.
Yes.
And then the AFP were sort of just part of their daily routine was doing all of that. Were you involved in all that as well?
Are we talking probably 99 there, mate? Are we Intervet itself or later? I haven't listened to that podcast.
It would have been about 2003, I think it was. Yeah.
Gotcha. In my defence, that was yesterday, so I don't have an opportunity to have listened to that podcast. Look, 2003, no, I wasn't, mate. I wasn't involved in that. I was an air marshal at that point. But you raise a good point insofar as in my transition from air marshal to federal agent, I was required to go through the AFP college or the academy. And part of that was having to eat some humble pie, what seemed like humble pie at the time. That's doing a year's probation in uniform, being a GD or general duty police officer as part of ACT police or the AFP. And in that time, having already been reasonably, or maybe not an experienced SAS soldier, but certainly a soldier with experience, an SAS soldier with experience, having to do things like attending deaths, so being the first person on the scene where a person has been reported dead or deceased, and having to safeguard that body until coroner or representative of the coroner picks that body up, having to then escort next of kin into the coroner's office or for want of a better term, mortuary, post-mortem place where they still saw the body, having to negotiate that and deal with the family, being both firm and being a human being at the same time as to when they can enter rooms and they can't and so on. But also giving death notices to parents, and in particular one still stays with me, giving now as a father of girls, giving an older gentleman the news, being the first person to tell him that his daughter's died from a drug overdose. So those sorts of things become commonplace as a general duties copper, yet alone a federal agent. And these are things that are probably missed when we think about police officers, and certainly soldiers in infantry and other armed corps think they're pretty hard as nails, particularly in peace, well, not particularly, but in peacetime areas where they don't have a lot of war fighting operations necessarily. That is where people are getting knocked over. People are being deceased, they're being killed on both sides. Outside of that they feel that they're quite sturdy, seasoned, hardened, but they still don't experience things like that. So linking back to what you're saying about Rod potentially is the daily dealing or regular dealing with death and the circumstances surrounding it. So you don't get to just walk away either. You don't get to just witness, create or deal with death and walk away from it. You then have to navigate it with next of kin, with family, with people that aren't involved whatsoever. So that takes the wisdom of Job, the sense of justice of Solomon, and any other metaphor you want to throw at that, to be a human and a professional all at once.
And do they have like processes in place to help you deal with that sort of stuff, or it's up to you to try and decompress?
Look, I've been a GD copper now for 20 years, so at the time the processes were just get on the beers with your mates at the time. So no formal processes at all.
Beer and dark humour.
Beer and dark humour, and let's just forget about that and crack on. Or you, as you say, dark humour. The decompression was discussing it through jokes, because you couldn't be serious about it because that was taken all entirely too seriously, which one wanted to avoid apparently. But
sit around and all cry together.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that was certainly not on the cards, because where does that end? Because if there's no formal process to address it, where's the formal process to cease it?
Yeah.
And to manage that, once you let the genie out of the bottle, how do we manage that? Jesus, we don't. I suppose what did strike me, and I'd imagine it's still the case, although I hope not, is that what's being an infanteer and being a structured person insofar as being special air service, I could be unconventional. I could do things on the fly. I was trained to do that. It was my role. I had done it. But I always thought when I became a GD that I was going to get the Constable Handbook. There's the Constable Handbook. It's 200 pages long. If you want to deal with something, you go down, go through the index and look at so on. There was nothing like that. It was experiential learning.
Yeah.
So you had to ask the questions, be curious and know. So it was an odd mix of you didn't know how to do something until it presented itself. You couldn't ask questions about something that you don't know is going to happen. So you literally had to front up and experience shift by shift and be confident and know to ask the right questions and who of. Because like anywhere in life, there were good people and there were lemons, in any job. And you had to know the right people to ask at the right time to get the best information possible to do your job.
Yeah.
Which flowed into that lack of process that we spoke about.
Did you find you found yourself a lot of good, strong mentors and role models to feed off and go to? In
the Federal Police or everywhere?
Just across your career?
Look, I think so, and some are deceased. Some were peers and some were in authority positions. And I'll throw names like, I guess peers was Matty Locke, Sergeant Matthew Raymond Locke, and I've spoken about him on a few occasions. As a peer, fantastic mentor, and he kept me accountable, and I like to think I kept him accountable in the lead up to selection and during selection. A like-minded person who I could find strength in, because if we both did it, it must be right. And we gave each other strength there. I guess in the battalion, people like Sergeant Mal Rutherford. Mal was his nickname. I continue to forget in moments his actual name, but Mal Rutherford did die in a tragic truck rollover in Pelada, Malaysia, in 1993, where five 7-hour personnel were killed in the TCV or truck rollover. Great soldier, and was responsible for me doing my basic sniper course, which I subsequently passed. I think coincidentally somewhere around the time he passed. He passed away, I passed that course. So
yeah, right.
The belief he had in me, again, fed to that general feeling that I was a worthy and capable soldier. And at that point in my life, that was my identity. So if I was a worthwhile and capable soldier, I was a worthwhile and capable human being. In my mind, the two weren't split.
Yeah, nice. So looking at your, so the most impact was the Sahara, and what about what was the most memorable as far as whatever it might be, action or fun? What comes to mind is like, yeah, that was a great time.
Yeah, look, I think just closing off in Sahara, I think the reason why it had the greatest impact because it was early doors. It was that lens. I was most vulnerable or open to being formed or changed. And as I grew older, I became more seasoned, experienced, gnarly, bitter and twisted, whatever term you want to use, and less able to change. And that tends to be a characteristic of most people and things as they get older. That the nature of that thing is it's harder to change. The saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I try to think of that saying daily and be unlike that saying. I try to learn new tricks where I can. So I guess to answer your question, I think probably would have to be Afghanistan. And the reason I say that is the leadership component of it.
Your leadership?
My leadership, I mean, not clearly, but I saw good and bad elements of leadership. Whilst I was there, I saw how mildly dysfunctional chains of command can be and how that can impact operations and ultimately could impact on friendly KAs, WIAs, could harm our own troops. And I saw things that harked me back or made me think of things like the charge of the Light Brigade. And I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but that charge occurred because of a breakdown in dysfunctional leadership and carriage of information between the lines of authority there.
Blue on blue?
Not a blue on blue, just people in chains of command hating each other. And changing or morphing information or refusing to speak to people, to speak to each other. Therefore, the wrong information was coming down through the chain of command, which caused a misunderstanding, and the commence of that charge, the charge of the Light Brigade, was not meant to happen because two men hated each other, basically, in that line of command, in the British command. So I saw, not that I'm saying that I saw that, but I saw dysfunctional relationships between command have a negative impact on how we did business. So there's observations on leadership above me, but also, I guess, the leadership I had to perform, the leadership function, and that was motivating and leading men in battle operations where their lives were at stake, and they were acutely aware of it, that when they were going out the front gate or outside the wire, or whatever term you wish to use, that there was a likelihood, and not remote, there was a likelihood that they were going to get killed that day. So dealing with all those things they talk about in training, the welfare aspect of that, they're having problems at home. Some are splitting up with their wives. Some came back with broken marriages after that. So they're experiencing that process whilst deployed and whilst having to navigate life-threatening operations.
Yeah, made it more reckless.
Or, dare I say, anxious in what they did. It's not fear to be concerned about your life. That's an element of fear. Doesn't make you non-courageous. Doesn't make you a coward, being acutely aware of your own mortality and being a bit concerned about dying. That doesn't make you a coward. So I think elements like that, when you're having negativity in the noise in the background, which is your life, and make no mistake, Harley, you would know yourself, when you're trying to focus on the job at hand, which is an overseas deployment, and your life is potentially at stake, you want to draw down into that and focus on it. You want to give that 100% of your attention. And unfortunately, those negative aspects, if they're occurring at home, become white noise you can't ignore, but you'd like to, because you feel like you just want to pause it. I'll deal with that when I get home, but you can't. So it's occurring. So soldiers are navigating this in the background, and I'm trying to navigate that whilst getting the job at hand and being a human being, not bloody lashing them like a racehorse to get to the line. Being a human being and have them, because we all know that to be the best leader and achieve the best result, you need to engage people and influence them to acknowledge the dream or the vision you have and follow you with it, not by lashing them. So I found that very challenging and I guess rewarding when I look back on it now. Difficult, not that I had difficult individuals, I had magnificent individuals under me, but they had to navigate their own professional and personal demons, as did I, to get through certain actions, and that was a leadership period that I'll always have a lot of pride in.
Yeah, right. What is it? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to still move forward.
It is. I believe it is, mate. And I've experienced it and I've witnessed it, more importantly, in other human beings. And it's a. I feel privileged to witness that in others.
One thing I was curious about, which is kind of very left field, is as a sniper. I don't talk to many snipers. Obviously, one of my best mates is a sniper, but he doesn't tell many stories. There's all the furfies and digging out about what a sniper does and just walking through the bush and for days and days and days and laying in the same spot for a week at a time and shitting in a bag and eating whatever you've got on hand. What was that sort of sniper life like?
I'd say there's two elements to it that might surprise people or not. To me, two characteristics of being a sniper is, one, you're a lifesaver, not a life taker. So you protect friendly forces and save lives. I think, secondly, you're a survivor. You're a battlefield survivor. You're cunning as a shithouse rat and you get in and out of things alive. Somewhere along the line there you actually shoot, and somewhere along the line there you want to take the life of a foe. But the two characteristics are protecting friendly forces and staying alive. And that surprises some people. Not that I have anywhere near the operational, I guess, kudos of someone like Chris Kyle we talk about the American sniper, is from that movie, but he talks about in his book prior to being killed that he felt his greatest achievements were protecting friendly forces, US personnel, not the taking of lives. And that's a person with, I don't know, whatever that was, ludicrous number of bloody confirmed kills. So he doubles down on that, and that's what I believe, and I felt that is that guardian angel, that guardian aspect of looking after your own troops. And secondly, I used to have this, I guess, interference or pushback when I was in the federal police around what a marksman or sniper is, and the police, and rightly so in their role, I guess, they're all about the one shot and accuracy, and we know that the standard engagement range operationally for a sniper, something like 90 yards or 80 yards from the US experience. So they're all about getting in close in a secure environment mostly and hitting a target at the other end. What I brought to that, or attempted to bring to that, was the holistic nature of being a sniper, not a marksman, but a sniper. And what that is, it's the whole element around in my mind, you're the consummate soldier. You need to be smart. You need to be able to think laterally. You need to entertain unconventional thoughts and views on how to do things. You need to have the utmost resilience in both physically, mentally, and psychologically. You need to go without sleep for long periods, not eat for long periods, be able to neutralise an enemy person, i.e. kill someone, and maintain your sanity and your open, warm view of the world after it. But also survive. So you've got to be smart with technology. You've got to have the ability. You've got to have a sense of being one with nature. I.e., you've got to be able to navigate in all weather and terrain. Funnily enough, it sounds like the role in the infantry operating in seasonal weather and terrain. But you've got to be an absolute professional at it. You've got to be a genius at navigation, both manually and with technology. As I said, use all technologies. It used to be an art, and it still is an art, but now it's a science. The smarts you need to navigate, I guess, ballistic software and the technology we get nowadays is astounding. On top of that, what you find is snipers have become quasi the go-to people in battalions, and I've seen it multiple times when I've come in. For a period of time, I ran sniper courses under the guise of being the visiting SAS instructor. I ran sniper courses. I helped out with sniper courses in the battalion. And I see repeatedly when a task is too hard, the CO will pick the sniper. And even for a non-sniper related task, like leading a company or battalion in to an FUP or something at 3 o'clock in the morning, give it to a senior sniper. If I need to send someone on an overseas deployment or something where our battalion's represented, i.e. the head of a Cambrian Cup or dog squad, I'll pick the sniper. So they tend to be the go-to people, or otherwise known as the most consummate professional men in a battalion. Or dare I say it, I'm not tracking any, but sure, soon, if there isn't already, there must be a female sniper wearing an Australian uniform coming shortly, if there hasn't been. So the most capable person there. So that's what a sniper is to me. It's the consummate soldier, the infantier. And because they need to display all elements of being a soldier to the highest level.
Yeah. They are definitely. They're held in the highest regard of all the regular army roles. And
don't get me wrong, Harley, I'm not blowing my own trumpet there. There are snipers that are less than good. And with that prominence or that magnifying lens being put over you in a battalion, sometimes we're all human. We fail. We make errors. What you'll find is that usually anyone that passes a sniper course is at least a pretty decent soldier. And then where they take that from then is their own business. And, our mutual friend there, Paul's very good sniper, and he's a good example of the finest of what the Royal Australian Regiment can produce in snipers.
Yeah, good bloke too.
Good bloke.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, cool. So, when did you discharge, and are you still current?
No, my final iteration with defence was as a choco or reservist. with ADF SSO or Australian Defence Force School of Special Operations, that was somewhere around, I always get the year wrong, it was either 21 or I think it was 21. No, February 21. Some reason I always say 22. I think it's February 21. Let's go with that. And that was after a period of, I lived in Scotland for a year or two there, and was still remain on the books as a reservist, but in the final iteration, reservist, and I was medically discharged in the end. The story behind that, I guess, Harley, was that I'd fought that for a number of years, the medical discharge. There isn't a piece of me that doesn't ache right now, and I make that joke with friends and family that, have you seen that diagram of the evolution of man where you see an ape or a chimp on four?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as they walk laterally over the millennia, they end up as an upright bloody Homo sapien at the end. That's like me when I get out of a chair for the first 20 metres, mate. So I start out as Homo not so bloody capabilis at the beginning, and then Homo sapien at the end. It takes me about the length of a cricket pitch to get there. So, but by the end, I'm fully erect or upright, I should say. So I fought that discharge medically, and I had a number of medical issues, both physical and mental health, and I'd successfully fought that due to being a critical trait, i.e. sniper, and in particular an SAS sniper or special forces sniper. And I had a use. I was running multiple courses for the Royal Australian Regiment when it was a critical trait and we didn't have enough. So it was about the raise, train, sustain aspect there of a critical capability. When the Brereton report occurred, I went, I'm done. I will not fight this anymore because this is an environment I don't wish to be part of or associated with any longer. What they were doing to my friends who are currently in SOCOM and Special Air Service, and what that indirectly said about what not even indirectly, directly, what it said about our behaviour in the Middle East and Afghanistan, what they were the lies and innuendo they were peddling, and what that indirectly said, or not so indirectly, about the history and good behaviour and reputation of the Special Air Service and SOCOM in particular. I wouldn't be part of it. So I ceased fighting that and allowed them. I just ceased struggling on the conveyor belt and then just went out the door and let them discharge me.
Yeah, okay. And was that hard to walk away?
Look, I think it was, mate, because it had been my identity, and I struggle with it now insofar as I don't want it to be my identity. But the monkey on the shoulder just taps me and goes, hey, that's your identity. And I arm wrestle with this monkey daily, saying it's not my identity, I'm someone else now.
Yeah.
And again, in a podcast I was listening to that you did with someone else talking about, or maybe it might have even been Paul this morning, saying about, at best we're soldiers up to 40, 50. At best we're going to live to 80, 90 at best. So who are you for the next 30, 40 years after that? And it's got to be someone else, and it is someone else. So I keep fighting every day when part of me wants to keep clinging to that special operations guy or person, and I've got to fight with it and go, you're not that person. Leverage it, be proud of it, sure. Utilise those skills you learnt, but you are not that person. So I struggle with that, and I still do, as stated. But I think also the fall of Afghanistan, the fall of Kabul, whenever that was, I'm going to pluck 22, something like that, 22, 23, whenever that occurred.
20, yeah, maybe 22.
Yeah. I tried desperately to not have that affect me. I tried to look in the mirror and lie to myself and say that's not so bad. That's just a thing. Doesn't matter. But it did. And I took probably 7 days to grasp that, to inherently and acutely deal with that and what that meant and what that meant for the legacy of 20 years of us fighting in Afghanistan. What did that mean for what I did? What did it mean for my mates? What did it mean to the friends and family of people like Blaine Diddams, Matthew Locke and countless others who are both WIA as well as MIA? What does that mean? How do I justify that? So, and I still don't know. I still just, it's in a shoebox in the back left-hand corner of my top shelf, and maybe that's where it'll stay for life.
Yeah. Was it a lot of the relationships and stuff you built over there as well that that you, I guess, with Allied forces leaving, those people are left alone. Was that part of it as well, or was it just your contribution?
Look, I think it is, Ali, and I think that is, like we've spoken before about something else during this conversation. I think that is so complex. I wouldn't even hazard to open that Pandora's box now, because it would take too long to do it justice. If we didn't do it justice, something would be taken the wrong way on commenting on that. But sure, when I was even with the embassy, you know, we would get people who were previous employees or supporters of the coalition and Australian forces who would push their details in your hand and say, hey, because they could see the writing on the wall, or they just wanted to get out of Afghanistan then, or they could see the writing on the wall. And let's face it, harking back to the conversation we said about before, of us not being vigilant and cognizant that the stable Australia we've always grown up in may not be the case, because history tells us otherwise when we view other nations. Borders shift, dissolve, reappear. Peoples, groups are persecuted, prosecuted in whatever fashion. So I think they knew, Afghanistan, that it's such a volatile country. They well knew that tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. So these people pushing their agenda, and their agenda is, I want to survive, I want a better life, and knowing that you had no power really at that point. So again, dealing with that and being a human at the same time is challenging.
Yeah. With all the areas of operation and stuff that you've been in, bit of a thoughtful question, but do you think there's ever a chance that the world won't be at war?
No, I don't. I think it's in our nature.
Death, war, and taxes.
What's that?
Death, war, and taxes. The only things guaranteed in this life.
Yeah. I can't see how. I mean, we talk about the AI theory now, and all the biggest brains in the world go, we need AI because it's going to stop us killing each other. That's one, loosely, that's one concept, broadly stated by some people. That AI could achieve what we can't ourselves. World peace. Or what does that even look like? Because you put two humans, or you put three humans in a room, usually, maybe two is okay, three, and eventually conflict is going to occur in whatever way that looks. Can we ever stop that? I don't believe we will. And the older I get, the more I realise, or I see that how difficult communication is. When you're young, you think, I just say that. And we talk about what is messaging, or when you speak, or however you deliver a message, you send it and the sender encodes it. They don't know they're encoded, but they're encoding it in the method they send it. And the receiver needs to receive it and decode it. And the difference between the decoded result to what the intended encoded was can vastly differ sometimes. And when I was young, I thought it was simple. I say A and B, and that's what it is. And I didn't entertain anything differently. And then over the years, I see how badly things can be misconstrued or taken the wrong way. That is frightening. It's frightening how often we misunderstand each other as human beings.
Yeah. As you go through life and relationships, one thing we never really learn in school or anything is how to navigate relationships successfully, which is probably one of the biggest things in life that we have is communication and talking and relationships with partners and friendships and stuff. And as you go through life and you have more and more of these and more failed ones, you realise just how what you intend can be received completely differently.
And it's literally shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not what I was saying at all.
Yeah. And it's shocking and frightening.
Yeah.
And I suppose, Mo, you would have had the same where you have said and done things with the absolute purest intent, and then you get this sense of indignation when someone throws it back in your face. And, how dare you tell me this? And you go, geez, I really wasn't. And how dare you, how dare you dare?
Yeah.
So I mean, otherwise, I mean, it's
100%. Yeah. Looking over your career as a sniper instructor and sniper yourself, how do you think the guys are on the tools these days and the training and stuff? You think it's always been consistent and good to go, or things have changed over the years for the better or worse?
I think history tells us, unfortunately, I think mostly history repeats, and history tells us that any capability, sniping at the lead of this, decreases with lack of focus in peacetime. That is, the need to expend resources to maintain niche capabilities, or what are considered niche capabilities, that the passion and motivation for that decreases. It's one of the first things to chop on any budget. So given that, you see that in the Australian Defence Force right now. Whilst we are not totally de-operationalised or unoperational, we're not on the same footing perhaps we were 10, 15 years ago. So it would be suffering, and it is suffering. I can see it in the tech and the systems available. That is the weaponry and the tech that supports that. I'm seeing that not come through, and contracts, tenders, funding delayed or ceasing on that. So that, of course, is going to affect the capability, because you can only be so good. But if you're throwing rocks at people, you're less lethal than if you have a good rifle. So, and I take that to the extreme. But the point is, our good people, our snipers, are some of the absolutely best trained in the world. They deserve the best kit to be the most effective in the world, and particularly when we're going to come up, because I believe it's a certainty, be it X period of time that we'll be up against a near peer foe, and we need our people to be as good as they can be, again, to defend us and to further the interests of the Australian people and the Australian government. In this case, defend us and defend our way of life.
Yeah, that's something that I've felt and talked about with peers a lot, is those close by people getting preparing and putting all the money into their military forces and getting ready for what seems inevitable, while we just relax and spend less money and become less prepared. It's frightening.
Mate, it is. And I hesitate to step into the arena of controversy here, and which is political, and but it relates to so much going on. And we all know it. We may as well not try and ignore it. We see that we're all aware. All of us are aware of the tension now that exists in Australia with immigration. Dare I say it? I've said it, and I'll get 3 death threats before I leave here on socials. But not casting an opinion either way. We know that's topical at the moment, immigration. We know that what's occurred between Israel in the Gaza and with Palestine and so on, we know that's topical at the moment. We're in a period of instability, and it's tumultuous at the moment, the Australian landscape, the political landscape. And I feel all those societal things are creating an us and them. I feel that there's certainly a rift developing, and I sense that it's getting wider between people that feel one way and those that feel another way or believe another way. And this was never part of the Australian aspect or the psyche. Australians have never been like that. Mm-hmm. So this is something I've never witnessed before to this level, nor have I read about or heard about in the history of Australia, a rift like this developing. So that's got to be concerning, no matter who you are. Whichever side you're on, if you truly believe and want the best for Australia as a nation and its people, whatever that people looks like, whatever those people look like, just call them Australians. If you truly believe in them and want the best for this nation, that's got to be concerning for you. And we need to find a way to cease that rift and heal it as quickly as possible. And this feeds into what we're talking about, I suppose, the Defence Force. Society certainly influences our Defence Force. This societal rift in a lot of quarters, and the debate about immigration and certain things, and I'm being a little bit blurry around that because I don't want to deal too much into specific politics, but the the heightened feelings around these things have got to be causing a decrease in patriotism across the board in Australia. As in your average individual, on a level of 1 to 10, 10 being the most patriotic you could ever be and 1 being not patriotic at all, the level of patriotism must be dropping per capita or per person in a general sense in Australia. What does that mean? In my mind, that means that there's less young people willing, able or motivated to join the Defence Force, because if you don't buy into a Team Australia, if you don't buy into that team, why would you defend it?
Well, you want to protect that.
If you're not interested in it, you're just stuck in the team. You'd rather just sit on the sidelines and play your buddy PlayStation or something.
Or move to Southeast Asia or something.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of people of both, of all political persuasions doing that as well, aren't they? And a lot of my peers, and perhaps your peers as well, have decided to move offshore for good now.
Yeah. It's pretty sad.
It is, mate, and that's got to be feeding into Defence Force recruiting, greater issues around that.
Yeah, well, there's all the different things. Like we were talking before with the biggest influence that the biggest impact that happened in your career was an early deployment, and now there are no deployments. Do you think that contributes to retention, lack of?
I think so. And lack of deployments, I guess there are overseas gigs going at the moment, isn't there? There's all these bilateral, trilateral, multinational exercises. And so I guess this, and I'm aware of SOCOM dabbling here and there on things. So probably enough on the boil to keep people, when I say people, soldiers, reasonably engaged, I would think, once you're in, to a degree. But what I'm hearing when I spoke to a bunch of young soldiers probably about 2 weeks ago now, that Paul put me onto, and I do it fairly regularly. Try to talk about aspects of what we're talking about now, and that's mostly how to make your military experience work for you and carry through to enable a success in the civilian world once you leave. And to your point, mate, they do feel disengaged. A lot of them, they do, contrary to what's going on, they do feel like it's a peacetime army. They do feel like army's the great Satan and it's done wrong by them. And now they're getting spat out, these are medically. So you're going to get a negative lens here, because there are people that are being involuntarily medically discharged in most cases. So, of course, they're not in a great period of their life, professionally at least. So they do feel that way, and it makes me wonder, how do we refresh that? How do we enable the positivity of our soldiers and motivate them more? And it's an unfortunate fact that operations, and most soldiers get more motivated by the higher end of operations. They get inspired, motivated, and want those. They tend to be the ones that cause deaths and killing.
Yeah.
So
careful what you wish for.
So you're now wishing for war and death, which makes you a warmonger. So it's unfortunate those sorts of armies tend to be dynamic and vibrant. And I don't have the figures at hand, but I'm pretty sure somewhere at the height of Afghanistan, late 2000, when I say height, the numbers of Australians deployed, somewhere around in that period, 2007 through to 2012, was one of the highest periods in modern history of recruiting, or interest shown around recruiting. And as young people wanting to join infantry is the anecdotal feedback I'm hearing. So what does that mean? It's an uncomfortable reality that vibrant, dynamic defence forces tend to be involved in conflict, which means death. Conversely, it seems to attract a lot more recruits. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on retention and recruiting?
Look, I think we've touched on a lot of that already, Harley. I think the greatest societal temperature at the moment is not helping recruiting at all. I don't think there's the desire of the average individual, 17, 18 to 40, whatever. We don't want to be ageist now. 17 or 18 to 80, whatever it is now. to join the military, but we need to somehow, that's due to a lack of buy-in with the nation and the ability to defend the nation and the desire to do so. Somehow we need to reinvigorate that. I think defence for starters need to make it easy. Need to make it, when I say easy, faster. The process less onerous and faster.
To get in.
Not easier to be a bum or to be a lower achiever and get in, but if you are essentially good enough, and we know that's the case now. I'm seeing people that I believe subjectively from Doug's point of view, people are getting knocked back that are excellent candidates and people are getting through that aren't. So surely there's a grey area overlap where we get it wrong. So let's just accept that and make it faster, because clearly the elongated process is not working for anyone. It's not ensuring we get a better candidate across the board, and it's not making anyone happy. It's feeding into low retention rates. It's feeding into the lack of the ability to recruit or increase the numbers we need to defend Australia, and it's not helping candidates. People are getting fed up and abandoning the process. And I know this because I've got, one of my daughters sailed straight through because she's a legal officer. She's a lawyer, got a master's in law. So she did a bloody knife, fork and spoon course. They welcomed her with open arms because that's a critical trade. It's a pre-packaged, paid for up front. She was a lawyer before she joined the military. That's great. I've got, and she's kicking goals, and the Army's better. Defence Force is better for having her. I've got other mates with younger, when I say younger children, I'm talking about kids 18, 19-year-old, who have been on waiting lists for 6, 9, 12 months to get into the Defence Force, and they are good candidates. They are educated, they are fit, they have the wherewithal. So we need to get serious about this, and someone needs to take a scythe to the recruiting process and cut it down and rebuild it fast and make it better and less elongated and onerous for all involved. We need to just work out what pathway do we need, what goalposts people need to tick, and rapidly get them through it. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy is what's making it hard and elongated.
Yeah, well, it's kind of shocking when you hear that as well, because when you there's not a single unit in the military that's fully manned, whether that be downgrades or just not enough numbers. I don't think there's a battalion across the country that has a full capability, even with chocos. So yeah, the fact that they're holding people back is pretty mind blowing. Something I was talking about yesterday as well was the fact that retention would probably be massively increased if they would actually let you do the job you wanted to do when you walked into recruiting. Say, hey, I really want to be an artillery number, for example. We could give you that, but you have to wait 1-2 years maybe. But we need some admin clerks tomorrow or whatever it is. So they, being young and not having anything else to do or look forward to, they accept a job or the classic, once you get in you can change. And then they headbutt a wall for 2 years trying to change and they can't, and then they just leave. But if you actually, instead of pushing them towards the roles that are a high priority right now, which this person has no interest in doing, you let them do the role they want to do, you'd probably have a soldier for life rather than a soldier for 3 years. Yeah,
agreed. And I acknowledge and understand or appreciate, probably is a better way to say it, the competing forces around trying to maintain a workforce in some trades that might not appear as sexy or that draw as many applicants. And you've got to fill them. I get all of that. I'm not, I'm not a complete Neanderthal when it comes to understanding these things, but you're dead right. There's got to be a better way to do it. Is it trying more? Let's make those trades less suitable less popular. Let's pay them more. Let's make the conditions better for that, like they did with submariners. And let's be brutally honest. We're a defence force, so we're meant to be dynamic achievers. Let's be honest. Let's be brutally honest at the get-go. Let's start being honest with the people and telling us this is what you'll be doing if you don't like it. There's this other thing you can do if you don't like that. Well, come back in 6 months and we'll see if the vacancies have changed. But be brutally honest up front with that, And it's interesting there. Another anecdotal story, talking to a group of young people recently, I saw a very very dispirited young female soldier was getting medically discharged, and she came on board exactly like that, wanted to be a medic, joined to be a medic, and then somewhere along the line got redirected to transport 2 years in, and then they broke her and she's medically discharged. So her entire experience of army is army being less than transparent with her, being forced on a trade she didn't want, and now being rejected. And that's what it feels like as a young person, like that. The army's rejecting you. And I know that that's how it feels, because as a 52-year-old or something in 2000, whatever I was, 51 in 2021-ish when I exited, mostly by my own volition in the end, I still felt rejected after, over 30 years of being associated with the Defence Force. That's how you feel. So, geez, we could do a lot of things better, and it doesn't seem like it's hard, really, except the hard part is change. It's breaking the culture of how we've done it for 20, 30, 40, 60 years. Let's break it. And I dare I say, like all change management, mate, we get in there with a chainsaw and a lot of napalm. And if it does, we can't cut it down, we burn it. Or once we cut it down, we burn it again, and we change and we force that. This change must happen, I think.
Well, the senior leadership doesn't want to rock the boat, right? Because they want to move on to their next promotion and whatever it is. So it would take some pretty courageous people to step up and make those changes.
And unfortunately, mate, those people that want to make those changes will get gas-axed. Somewhere in their movement upwards, they'll get identified, targeted and speared. I.e. they won't advance.
You're rocking the boat.
Because they're not citing the Greek party line. So hence the complete breakdown of what has been to produce something new. And I think whatever that looks like, we need to break that. I've got no answers for that. Maybe a visionary politician somewhere, or a visionary chief of defence force, someone.
Yeah. So when you got asked to leave and accepted your retirement, what was the next steps?
Look, Harley, from there, because I was a reservist at that time, I'd already made inroads into a civilian career, or looking at what was next. Part of that was resetting how I valued, or how I looked at life, rather, in a professional manner. But also, I guess it was about repackaging the product that I was. I came to a realisation that people in civilian street, in the corporate world, probably found it, or did find it, interesting that I was this special air service guy. Found that interesting. Probably about as long as it took to drink one beer, they found that interesting. After that, it was an oddity, and it gave you no real purchase or traction in the corporate world, really. And unless you're someone very famous in that period of, I guess, certain SAS blokes could go on the speaking tour for years and make a lot of money. Unless you're one of those, if you've got to navigate a corporate or civilian career, and you can't leverage, as in overtly leverage, being Army or Special Forces. So in other words, I had to change the product or the package, and how I did that was through education. Okay. So I did a Master of Business Admin through a scholarship with Wandering Warriors. Did my MBA whilst working for an ESO. Then recently, or not so recently, I did a company directors course. So through the Australian Institute of Company Directors, did a directors course which enables me to be a chair of a board or a member of a board. What that did was gave me background, the essential knowledge of how to conduct myself and how to conduct operations and strategy within a business environment. It corporatised me. Gave me that knowledge. So I think it was the ability to understand that I didn't know everything, and I couldn't just wing it as the SF dude. I couldn't just wing it. And, if I just do a bit of who dares wins, and I'll sparkle everyone with my bloody intelligence and forward thinking and unconventional nature, that will just blow everyone away. Realising that doesn't work. It gets you a bit of attention early. It can open doors on some occasions, but there's no longevity to that in a civilian corporate life. you need to do more. And that's what I did.
Yeah, nice. It's a real testament to you to take on such a feat at close to retirement, when obviously with your military background you probably wouldn't have to do anything to survive.
No, and I don't, mate. And more power to you also, Harley. Like you're doing, you go back to uni and becoming, a professional exercise physiologist, and everything you've done since then, you've done something very similar in your own way. So it takes a resetting, and it takes a level of being humble to do that and reset yourself. You would have, I'm no doubt you would experience that in uni. Potentially you were doing your uni course with 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds.
I was the old man.
There you go. So I was trying to be careful of hedging around that.
I've got kids the same age. Yeah. My oldest daughter was the same age as all my uni friends.
So mate. Exactly. Yeah. But some of those things I did realise, I guess, and I say to younger people exiting the military, having said all of that, don't devalue who you are either and what you've learnt. And what I mean by that is, one of the first things I realised when no names, no pack drill, but when I started doing my tertiary studies, I started realising, it took me probably 3 or 4 months to realise it, but some of these people that were presenting as immense brains were simply another version of people with the gift of the gab. They'd been driving careers for decades, a decade or decades, where they just could express themselves that convincingly that they didn't have to actually produce anything. Yeah. So it took me a while to realise that watch what people do, not what they say. So remember that if you can carry that aspect in your civilian career, that do as you say as you do. So deliver with physical results. Don't just talk a load of bullshit.
Yeah, for sure. Going back onto being a testament to your motivation to do more and be more. I think that's a huge thing to help younger guys. As you're saying, you talk to younger soldiers and medically discharging and stuff. I think that's great, especially because a lot of them get out on the medical system and they're told by the doctors and psychologists and stuff to, just go home and relax. And, you're a veteran now, you're financially sorted, you don't have to work anymore. And it's not enough. It's not enough to have a pension and sit on the couch. Like it's not a life. And as we used to try and drill into the heads of all the soldiers going through SRC, especially the ones medically separating, was you can't just be an injured veteran for the rest of your life. You cannot make that your identity. You need to do hard things, to get out, to push yourself and get a new career, start again. Just because you're 25 and you're a veteran and you're medically separated, that's not the end. It's not the end of your life. Like, do more, be more, find something, find a new passion, start again. I got my degree when I was 40 years old. Like, it's not too late.
No.
You got yours when you're in your 50s.
Dead right, mate. I think I just turned something like 53. Yeah.
If you're 25 and you think that you're done because you've had a career in the military, you've only just begun.
That's absolute poison, isn't it? That messaging. If I caught anyone saying that, I wouldn't be responsible for my actions. If I caught someone saying that to a young person, that is the most poisonous, harmful thing you could ever say to a 25-year-old. That is just reinforcing negativity with negativity. Can you imagine? And you don't have to. You would have witnessed it multiple times of being a young person, like I said, using the example before. You have entered the Defence Force, been given a trade less than transparently, i.e. given something that you didn't want. Then a couple of years later, you're rejected. What you feel like is rejection. You're involuntarily medically discharged from the Defence Force. You're now, as you say, 25, and some fool tells you you're a veteran now, you're on a Class A pension or a pension for life, you're a veteran now, go home and you chill out the rest of your life. That's negativity reinforced by negativity, reinforced by a whole lot of bad advice. And that's not sustainable. And I know that, like you touched on before, I could do that. I have the ability to not work. I choose to for two reasons. One, I'd like a slightly better standard of living for my family. But two, I can't sit at home. I couldn't. It's a short circuit to a lot of negative behaviour.
Hello, sadness, my old friend.
A lot of sadness.
Hello, sadness, my old friend.
That's right. I'm hearing Simon and Garfunkel bloody starting up in the background. Correct. Yeah. Hello, darkness too.
Yeah.
Yeah. A whole lot of negative behaviour. And how irresponsible is that telling a 25-year-old person when they should be starting their trajectory to being launched into success in life?
Yeah.
To try and hobble them by placing a metaphorical ball and chain around their leg and say, "That's you done. Go home and chill out." Irresponsible, dangerous, poisonous, and beyond reproach. As in not beyond reproach. There's no excuse for it.
Yeah, 100%. The doctors, I think there's a bit of the wrapping them in cotton wool of fear of whatever it is, fear of suicide, fear of mental health, fear of exacerbating injuries. They just go way too far the other way. Don't do anything. Don't do exercise. Fuck. Wow. As an exercise physiologist, bow on grinds my gears. I've heard that from physios and doctors. Don't do exercise. No more exercise for you. It makes me want to hurt somebody. But the wrong advice. Yeah. The complete backwards wrong advice. Sit on the couch, smoke weed, drink, all the things that are going to drive this person into the ground, into an early grave. Mm. That's the advice that they're getting, rather than, be positive, go out, socialise, get a job. Doesn't matter. Anything. It's I think it's just an over prescription of safety, which is having the opposite effect.
Yep, risk-averse personnel, risk-averse clinical personnel, and we spoke about that indirectly prior to recording today. Agreed, and we know that, and I'm preaching to the choir here, mate, this is your professional sphere, but some of the greatest indicators of longevity now, they're saying through clinical studies, are cardiovascular health and strength, i.e. move, lift, do exercise. Mate, I had a total hip replacement October last year, so we're talking about 11 months ago, something like that. And I was told never to run again, never to run. So I kept asking my surgeon, who was a very fit guy in his 40s. I said, "Can I run?" And he kept avoiding it, and other doctors kept avoiding the question. And I was seeing other specialists. I'm about to get, my foot plated and a few other things, and they're going, "So what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, look, I want to run. I'm running now." And they're saying to me literally, "You're running? Did your surgeon recommend running?" I said, "Oh, look, I keep asking him. He hasn't given me an answer yet." So in the interim, I'm running. And eventually he gave me an answer at my 12-month review, and said, "Look, if I was you, I would be." That's the answer. If I was you, I would be, mate. Dead right. So I took that as a yes. Anecdotally, I know of people that have done Ironman marathons with hip replacement, double hip replacements. The point is, we know, and I've witnessed through family members passing, that once you stop moving, it's the beginning of the end. Once you stop physically moving,
slippery slope. It's
a very slippery slope. And whilst I'm not suggesting that a 25-year-old is going to be deceased in 2 years' time if they stop moving, it's a habit, it's a formation of a lifestyle that has more morbidity attached to it.
Yeah, banking for future you. I used to tell my clients, you might feel like it's doing nothing for you now, but you chuck $2, which couldn't even buy you a coffee anymore. You chuck that $2 in the tin every day, and 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have a substantial amount of money, and that's the same thing. You're going to have a substantial amount of health, which is going to be better for your life, having all this money, than not having it. Same with your health. Yeah, it's the injuries. Yeah, sure, we've all got injuries. But there's two different trajectories you can go, and you can go on the injuries aren't going to get better if you do nothing. They'll still be there. They might even get worse. They probably will get worse. Or you can work with those injuries work with your surgeons and your professionals, and to some extent get a second opinion, because some of them are way too risk adverse, and live a better life. I had to sit down with my parents a couple of years ago, who are, the older generation. You get to that age of, sort of 60s, and slow down and you're like, oh, I can't do this or that anymore. I'm too old. They started adapting that mentality. And I literally made a slideshow presentation, and I took them for a coffee one at a time. And we sat there and I went through them, and just basically, like, it's not about aesthetics. Like, you think I go to the gym because I like to look good and have my shirt off at the beach or whatever it is. That's not it. Like, once you, like you said, lifting, once you get, your bones and your muscles and everything that's going to break down naturally, but you need to combat that as much as you can for as long as you can. And just like, so, yeah, you're 60 now. So let's say you've got 20 or 25, 30 years maybe. How do you want to live that last 20 years? It's still a long fucking time. Do you want to live that being pushed around a home with a wheelchair or a walker, or not being able to reach stuff in your cupboard, or not being able to do anything, walk upstairs? Or do you want to be feeling, old but pretty good, being able to do stuff, being able to pick up your grandkids or go for walks, or, being independent? And luckily, sort of a point in their life where they were seeing it. Their friends were starting to be with walkers or to die young from comorbidities and stuff, and now, like, really hit home for them. And now they're playing pickleball every day and doing little weight sessions that I give them and stuff. And it's vital.
Yeah, and look, you're a good and responsible son. Seriously, mate. I mean that genuinely. That's good of you, mate, to be in a position to do that, have the knowledge, and then do it. That's really good. And you are 100%, mate. It should be common knowledge out there, and I guess it isn't common knowledge. Otherwise, everyone would be moving. Reminds me of the old Life Be In It bloody advertisements from the 70s and 80s with Norm, the old bloody marketing campaign for people to get off the couch and move in Australia. And I know that myself now. It as you would, it's painful to keep moving. But I managed to. I played the Masters National Cricket Championships in Perth not so long ago, and I played 4 games in 5 days. That is on my feet for 10 hours, running, moving, and so as I hear these complaints, and it's complaints. There's no other word for it, of people my age or even younger going, oh, buddy, I'm 1,100 kegs overweight because my bad knee that I did, wallpapering when I was 28 or something, just absolute. And if you could almost record it and sit them down and play it back, that you could almost demonstrate for them how farcical is what they've just said. And I hear people, cricket, cricket is far more, in my opinion, less sedentary than people think it is. I'll play a game of cricket and do 17,000, 18,000 steps in a day. So you move when you play cricket. It may not be explosive like football or something, mostly, but you move. I hear people I play now with younger guys. On Saturday I play with all ages. Someone's youngest player is probably 16. The oldest probably me, but a few not far behind me in their 50s. And I hear people like, yeah, 35, I'm retiring now. Retiring from what, mate? You're 35. You're retiring from life? Oh, well, I did my knee. Oh, welcome to the club, mate. I've got a metal hip. Wake up yourself. It's absolutely farcical. And you would have heard these. You would have heard, mate, I'm only preaching to the choir once again. It was your job to listen to that part of it. You must have heard all those sorts of comments.
Oh, yeah.
It's farcical.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And then you got other people that have had multiple surgeries and back fusions and stuff that are doing jiu-jitsu every day.
Yeah.
Powerlifting and stuff. And I do Muay Thai like 5 times a week. And I've got, cam lesions and labral tears and bits broken off my spine and all sorts of stuff. But my theory is I'd rather be sore from training than not. I'd rather have a smile on my face and go, yeah, I was cracking those pads today, than sit around and protect my injuries.
Yeah, mate, I could not agree more. And it's it's good to have this conversation. It's good to get that out there and potentially generate more awareness around it. I've been, as a hobby recently, I've been trying to research and listen to clinical experts, global clinical experts on longevity, because funnily enough, it's now topical for me. Is longevity. So it's suddenly become interesting. Less interesting when I was 19. So I was going to live forever at 19, right?
Yeah.
So not so now. But it's, as you say, it's about, I think I've heard them call it now, health span. That's what I'm aiming for. Health span's what I'm after, not lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
100%.
I'm after. And then you can just knock me on the head. Just, buddy, try to make it as painless as possible. Just do me that favour. It's a bolt to the side of the head when I'm not expecting it. But I'm up till then, can I push that health span up into, what can I achieve? 85, 90. What can I achieve? And it's a little confronting. I was speaking to a colleague, an ex-army high-ranking officer who's recently, and he said to me, I said, mate, you're very slim. I'm sprightly for your 8 years older than me. I'm hesitating to guess, but perhaps early 60s. And I said, you're very slim. You look, quite sprightly. You're doing well. And he said, look, all I do now is I run 5K a day and I do agility sessions. That's all I do, no weights. He goes, my goal is to be 80 and be able to lift a bag in the overhead compartment on an aircraft. And I thought, wow, that's aiming low. But I hope I'm slinging it up there with one arm. I hope I'm slinging it down the aisle, taking people out. If it's a terrorist trying to take control of the aircraft, I'm belting them at 10 metres away with a bag, not just gently lifting one bag up in the overhead locker at 80. But the point's still valid,
You know
what? Health span.
You know what I love? I don't play it myself, but I love this pickleball thing that's taken over the world. It's amazing. You got 70, 80-year-olds running around a tennis court and smacking a ball. How good. That's that's fantastic.
It's good in so many levels, isn't it? It's like it's fun. It makes them, I guess, bloody joke around, laugh. It's the nature of it, social. I remember seeing that for the first time when I was studying, doing a bit of study with my MBA in Copenhagen, and some of these bloody young people said, young people, early 20s, we're playing pickleball tonight. Do you want to come? I said, that's some weird European thing. I don't even know what that is. Pickleball? No, I'll take a pass. But you're right. Yeah, it's really taking off and popular with older generations.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Cool, man. So what are you doing now?
I've got a corporate role at the moment, buddy. I run a bunch of veteran service hubs. So I guess holistic hubs that provide face-to-face support services to veterans. So, a range of things like mental health support, physical support, like we're talking about here, physio, exercise physiologists, but also more holistic services like employment services, well-being, well-being services like housing, emergency, financial assistance where needed, and compensation advocacy. So helping or assisting people navigate the behemoth and the complicated beast that DVA can be, or certainly lodging your claims through DVA can be, that process. So assisting with that. So what I'm trying to do, mate, and my goal is, and I don't, again, complex conversation around government funding and the Royal Commission and how service hubs generically fit into the whole veteran landscape. But I'm trying to bring a level, where I can, a level of corporate commercial expertise to that service hub model, i.e. make it efficient, make it brutally efficient and effective whilst remaining effective to the human element to that. In other words, being welcoming, being warm, using my shared experience of that, knowing what I don't know, trying to anticipate the needs of fellow veterans of all ages and demographics but like I said, to do that in a brutally, when I say brutally, I mean in the commercial aspect, make the dollars and cents work. This is not a generic government-funded, non-for-profit that has an endless bucket full of cash, and when it doesn't, falls over. We run it cleverly, intuitively, to business, good world-class business standards, to make the model work on all levels commercially, but also to be as many things as we can to support the veteran and do it the right way. So make the atmosphere right, make the full, and I use this, and it sounds commercial, but it is. Make that customer experience as rich as possible. That is, you walk in as a veteran and you feel like you've arrived home. You're talking to like-minded people who get you, get your experience, and want the very best for you. And at some level provide you that end of life or full longitudinal support through to end of life. Be that just guiding you into social networks and behaviours and mechanisms and support systems that can serve you well, for the rest of your journey post-service. But also for it to be a place for those that are serving, that feel welcome as well. So that whilst that seems wonderful when I wrap it up like that, it's actually quite hard to achieve, and that's my long-term vision, mate.
It's something we've spoken about on this podcast to exhaustion, is that a lot of the spaces like that become very clinical and white coaty and bland, which is, not who we are, which takes away that, like you said, you want to make it feel like home. If it's, white walls and clinical and very well spoken and whatever else, it doesn't feel like home. You feel out of place. You feel like a white little black duck in a white pond. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mate, I do, and I'm glad you said that, because you're a professional, mate. And when I say that, you're obviously, I believe you're a professional, but in the clinical, true sense of the word, you're an academic professional. You're a white collar person. That when you work, you're a professional in the societal definition of it. So your opinion comes from an informed space, both academically, but also you've lived it. You've worked in this space. So agreed. With that clinical approach comes a level of risk aversion that we spoke about, which is abnormal and if not abhorrent to veteran mindset. We were paid to take risks, whilst we all need to be responsible in how we deliver services and conduct ourselves and hold ourselves to the highest standards. We need to create that correct environment for veterans, and that is not make them feel like a lab rat when they walk in. It is about its warmth and professionalism. So I agreed. We need to, that clinical aspect has to be there, and all the safety mechanisms and protocols and processes that are there need to remain. We just need to have a high level of EQ, dare I say, professionalism, because we need to anticipate and see what we're doing, anticipate our future actions, and have the wherewithal to see what we're doing incorrectly now, or more importantly, what we could do better. And that is being warm, being welcoming, and making it a safe space, dare I say it, a better customer experience when you walk in as a veteran. And I've walked into some veteran hubs, and I feel like they have an atmosphere much like an NDIS or an otherwise abled establishment that cater for otherwise able people, and that's great. And all elements of our society need to be valued, cherished, supported, and looked after. But veterans are not differently abled people. We're functional people. A lot of us, most of us, have been at functional level on a stage where the stakes were far higher, both strategically when it comes to Australian interests, but also when it came to life and death than most people will ever experience who weren't in the military. So we're not dysfunctional. We're not differently abled. We're highly successful people who are transitioning to the civilian life, and we look vastly different. We are a representation of society and a representation of journeys, differing representations. So 100% agreed, mate. We need to be. It harks back to what I say before. It's that unique balance, and I believe it's unique because I'm not seeing much of it yet. So by definition, it makes it unique. in the future, we need to be highly professional, make the dollars and cents work, follow all the governance mechanisms so that we're safe, we do our job the best to a world standard, that we're innovative, that we're continually moving forward, but we need to be completely veteran biased to the veteran and their families. That is, when I say biased, a whole model is set up around making veterans feel welcome, feeling warm, and being innovative and casting the long view or the longitudinal view that we need to give them the ability to thrive for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think I said that with Jesse's conversation. Don't treat a veteran like a 16-year-old high school kid. Treat them like a veteran.
Yeah, it's there's many words I could use from one is farcical, observing some people and their interactions with veterans. It ranges from, as you say, treating them like high school kids through to being differently abled, to being neurodiverse, as if they can't quite understand what they're saying to them. And it's quite bloody confronting and disgusting at times.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you sound like the right man for the job.
Mate, whatever I can achieve, it will be through motivation and just a will to do it, mate. I'm just another cog. I'm thinking that anti-broken veteran narrative is starting to gain momentum. I don't know how it ever gained such impetus or momentum at one point, but I think many people now realise that it's not about feeding different coffers with money. It's about standing firm and we could learn a lot from, and I'll go back to that American experience. Like most things in life, when you observe another group doing something, it'll be a unique mix of you being able to do things better than they do, and then observing things they can do better than you, and that's what exchanges are about. That's what exchange is about, and the transfer of information in a positive aspect between groups. And we could learn a lot from the American experience. Do we look after our veterans better when it comes to pure dollars, cents, support mechanisms, beds in hospitals, mental health support, employment support, the things like that?
Yes.
I think we do. Do we honour them? Or not even honour them? Do we fully acknowledge and respect their contribution to society and what they can give to society post-service? Do we fully acknowledge that? I don't believe we do.
No.
We don't understand it. And I think the greatest fib going around at the moment is the government or people trying to say that we've arrived, that we understand the veteran now. We are so far from a society of understanding what a veteran is. It's not funny. We've never been further from it.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the big reasons I started this podcast, is to try and close that gap a little bit of understanding between society and the veterans, of, hearing the stories and the lives and the experiences and trying to close that gap of understanding a little bit, because it's so vast. Yeah.
No, it is. So that American experience, we could, as we said, mate, or as we're talking about, just honour that and just give it the gravity it deserves, because funnily enough, it feeds into recruiting. When children grow, they see that military service is an honourable, respectful thing to do, to give to the nation, serve the nation. That has knock-on effect to every other service. So police, fire, is what have you, that gives great gravity to serving your community. So that has knock-on effects elsewhere, is in suddenly the value of serving your community and society holds greater value. And the knock-on effects to that again, or the second, third order effects, is better citizens, more people willing to help their fellow man or their countryman, the person next to them in the street.
Yeah, definitely.
It engenders respect at all levels, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Have you got anything on the list you want to touch on before we?
No, mate.
wrap
I think
up?
that's. I think I bored people for long enough. I know you're bloody full of scintillating repartee, mate. So if there's any boredom here, I'm responsible for it. I think, mate, it's just that ability. I think, in closing, to I think as being a veteran is a microcosm or it's an example of just being a better transition. Is an example of being just trying to be a better human being. Like most people, I've made a lot of silly errors in my life. There's things, if I could go back with certain things, with hindsight and experience, I would do it better the second time round. Or if I'm Buddhist and this is the second time I've been here, a third time around, I'd probably do it better. I'd get it just right. But being Christian, my second time around, I'd do it better. I think it's about, and this is a throwaway example now a lot of people use, but as I get older, I reflect on things I could have done better, and I try to use that as the backbone to the thought process that as long as I can be a better human every day and strive to be that, a better version, I may have done something wrong 5 years ago, 3 minutes ago, 3 decades ago, but if I could do it better, if that scenario confronts me tomorrow, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. If I can be a better citizen, that's a good thing. If I can try not to have negotiable values, I have concrete values that won't shift and won't be moved by whether or not shifting them will bring me good fortune or bad. Just stay true to my values and those that I know to or believe to be correct in quiet moments. I know they're correct. So when they're challenged, it doesn't suddenly make them negotiable then. They are right. The cold, hard light of day, when you're alone, if they're right, they're right and they remain right. So the courage to stay true to them when they're challenged. And just be a better citizen. Be a better citizen to your fellow man and be a better Australian. When I say better citizen, there's no getting around it, mate. We're Australians sitting in Australia. So that means contextually, be a better Australian. Be a better Australian citizen.
Yeah. Yeah, learning from your mistakes is a huge one. It's great to, like you said, it doesn't matter if you made the same mistake 400 times and you did it again today. Doesn't mean you have to do it again tomorrow.
Very true.
You can change. Well said, mate. Thanks for taking the time to come and have a chat.
Mate, you're very welcome. Thanks for the opportunity, mate. And I've enjoyed speaking with you today and meeting you, mate.
Yeah, you too. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
This is